Welcome back to FH Stats Lab. Today is the 27th of July 2023 and it is a Thursday. We're right before market open at around 9 a.m. Eastern Time. Yesterday we had the Fed meeting where Jerome Powell announced a 25 basis point hike, to which the markets did become a bit volatile, but eventually went flat through the day. If we look at, for example, the triple Qs, we did get this push higher, then lower, and then we finished just around the same level. So nothing too notable there. One thing to note is we had Meta earnings, and Meta gapped up all the way to, I believe now it is 327, so it's really pushing this area of supply. And we do have this gap here, so a bit like if we looked at Google, for example, yesterday, Google also gapped up in a similar fashion and did retest this 128 level, and then she pushed back through it. It's now 131 in the pre-market. So a similar thing could happen with Meta, maybe not today, but in the next week or so, we could get this retest of this nice level of 320. And then from there, push through. If you look at some of our ETFs, so the triple Q, so that is gapped up this morning quite a bit actually. If we go to the 1 hour chart, we can notice that it tested this level of 375, 376 quite a few times, and has bounced off it multiple times, which is really bullish at the moment. That's really good. So I can say from one thing to look out for this morning is a retest of around 380. Maybe we can pull back ever so slightly, retest this area of demand, and maybe push through for our next leg. Dow Jones has 14 continuous up days, which is a 250-year record. That's just absolutely amazing. This will eventually need a pullback. I'd say if you look at, for example, XLF, the financial ETF, this has really been carrying it through, as well as energy and Dow Transportations. So the sort of older names, the non-tech names, have really been pulling the Dow through the market. And if you look at energy now, as mentioned yesterday, we're above this 200-day for the XLE. We've again gapped up. It seems that everything is gapped up this morning. So I expect a slight pullback to retest some areas of demand, and then from there we could maybe push through. Of course, don't forget we do have earnings next week. We have an Apple next week, so I don't expect the market to rally too much, but you never know. Seeing that Meta's earnings are quite good, Google had a positive reaction, Microsoft also bounced back quite quickly. The market may be quite bullish on Apple and may still rally. But usually when the market is within earnings season, it tends to chop around. So I would expect maybe a slight pullback this morning or in the next week. If you look at the semiconductors, this has had a huge gap up this morning, just like the other stocks. Similar to the Nasdaq, it's tested this 153.30 level quite a few times and has bounced off. If you look at Nvidia now, Nvidia retested this gap, so it's cleared this gap. Bottomed at around 440.35 for a very short time. Pushed through, retested again, and the bulls are in control. So I could probably look for a retest of around 460, and from there we could push forwards. We talked about Google yesterday. Google gapped up. It did eventually retest this previous area, previous resistance, 128.40 level, 129 level. This morning it is gapped up. This could again push through. If you look at Microsoft, yesterday Microsoft just about touched the 50-day moving average on the daily over here. And is now above this upwards trend line which we drew yesterday, which is good so far, but I'd say we still need to prove it. We're just lingering right there, just in the pre-market, so might be able to get a slight flush. Maybe we can even break through, or this just bounces and rockets off with the Nasdaq. We'll just have to see. Crude, similar to XLE, is still in an uptrend. We broke through the 200-day, we broke through this downward trend line. Yesterday I expected this pullback to go a bit more, maybe towards 78, but it just pushed through yesterday, which is not a bad thing. Maybe we can see a continuation here to around 83. If you look at the dollar's been very interesting as well. It broke through in 2 weeks ago through this 100.5 level, gained some traction upward, and is now retesting this area of supply. In fact, this morning it dropped quite sharply to 100.3, and now it's rebounded back. So that's something to keep an eye on, whether this actually pushes through back up, or with this 20-day moving average, do we curl back downwards, which is usually positive for stocks. If you look at the final thing we look at is our bond yields. There wasn't too much of a reaction yesterday, in line with the market. We're still hovering at around 4.88% for the 2-year, which is below the federal funds rate. So everything there seems healthy. A rally can definitely still happen. But that is all, and have a good trading session.